I have played Clash Royale for over 6 years. When I started playing, I was 13 years old and in middle school, and as of now, I am 19 years old and about to finish my first year of college. That is crazy. So in the 6 years I played Clash Royale, it's safe to say that I've learned a lot. And in this video, I wanted to go over 5 things that I have learned throughout my 6 years of playing Clash Royale. If you're a newer player, I think these will help you a lot. And even if you're not a newer player, maybe you can still learn something from this video. So the very first tip I want to give is that I personally believe there's no such thing as a best deck in Clash Royale. Content creators and pro players may show a deck and say that it's the best deck, but to be honest, I don't think there is such a thing as one deck being better than the rest. And the main reason I think this is because every single player in Clash Royale plays the game in a different way. For example, there are a lot of pro players that swear that this Royal Hogs Earthquake deck is the best deck in Clash Royale. But this deck has an extremely fast cycle at 2.9 elixir. It doesn't have much air defense, with really only having the Archer Queen. So it's a pretty high skill deck to play. So with that being the case, it's going to take a lot of time for someone to get good with this deck. And also it's a cycle deck, which naturally is more high skill than most decks. So let's say you're someone who likes to play higher elixir decks, maybe something closer to 3.8 or 4 elixir. You're going to have a harder time adapting to playing this deck because it's not what you're used to. And the same thing goes for a cycle player trying to adapt to play like a higher elixir cost deck. It's going to take some time for them to adapt to that playstyle because they're used to playing cycle decks with quick card cycles, right? So this isn't to say don't listen to pro players and don't listen to content creators, but if they show a deck that is of a playstyle that you're not used to playing, it probably won't be the best deck for you. Going back to this Royal Hogs deck, I'm not normally comfortable playing cycle decks. Most of the decks I play are higher elixir cost. Like this deck right here is more my speed. It's 4.4 elixir. It has a faster cycle and I love it. So in terms of taking deck suggestions from content creators and pro players, I'm going to be more likely to test out a deck only if it meets my play style compared to trying something else. So basically to summarize, just play decks that you're comfortable with. All right. So the second thing that I want to share is that being aggressive is normally the downfall of most players. There are situations where being aggressive is okay, but if you're being aggressive in a situation where you probably shouldn't be, it'll cost you the entire game. Let me just paint a scenario in your head, okay? It's the first play of the game. You play a Hog Rider, a mini packet, and a log at the bridge. All of your elixir just at the bridge at one play. Your opponent can potentially counter all of that for about half the elixir cost if they play something like a knight and then a tornado. Well, that's 6, so it's not exactly half, but that puts them up 4 elixir when you have no elixir, and then they could do something like a Hog Rider of their own opposite lane when you have nothing to counter it. When it's the first play of the game, there's no need to spend all of your elixir. It's just not worth it because you don't know what your opponent has. And even later in a game when you do know what your opponent has, you need to be smart with your aggression. One rule that I always like to follow is that I normally like to do my offense based off of counter pushes, right? So I defend what my opponent has, and then after that, if I made positive elixir trades, then I can go on offense and counter push when my opponent is low on elixir. Now, there are some exceptions to this rule, like a lot of cycle decks that are really quick. You know, you can just apply pressure kind of whenever you want. But as a general rule of thumb, I normally only like to do a lot of my aggressive things when I have defended my opponent's push and I know that their win conditions aren't in rotation. So yeah, being aggressive is okay in certain situations, but be careful with your aggression because it can cost you the entire game. Tip number 3 I want to share with you is that watching replays helps more than you think. So here's an example. I lost this game not too long ago against an Electro Giant deck 0-1. Now, instead of being frustrated and being a sore loser because I lost to Electro Giant, what I can do is I can watch this replay and see what I did wrong. So I'm actually going to go through this replay live and kind of show you guys potentially what I did wrong. I'm going to watch it through and show you guys what I think I did wrong. All right, so very first thing I noticed right here, he played that Electro Giant at the bridge and I played my Goblin Cage right here. There's actually a really interesting placement with the Goblin Cage where you can play it, or really any defensive building, you can play it pretty much across the entire arena. I'll mark it on screen where you can play it and it will still pull the Electro Giant. So I could have pulled the Goblin Cage over a little bit further to pull the Electro Giant over even more. Now, in this particular case, I was still able to defend the Electro Giant pretty effectively. Along with that Goblin Brawler of the Knight, it wasn't able to get any damage. But let's just say he played a Lightning and was able to take out my defensive cards and the Goblin Cage at once. It could have been bad. All right, so this one right here was a pretty bad mistake on my part. So he played an Electro Giant in the back. That's a 7 elixir commitment. A general rule of the deck I'm playing, which is Splash Yard, is that when they do a big thing in the back like that, it's normally safe to go opposite lane with the Graveyard Push. But what I did for some reason I went same lane with a knight and graveyard, putting 8 elixir into a 7 elixir. So what this means is that he can defend the graveyard with a card like a Dark Prince and a Barbaro like that, and then a Baby Dragon as well. And then those pushes will be supporting his Electro Giant. If I would have played the graveyard in the opposite lane, the push would have been separated and it would have been a lot easier to deal with. See, like this time I did that and I was able to get more damage on the tower with the graveyard, and I separated his defense from the offense. And so this right here is the play that I would say lost me the entire game. It was just a really stupid misplay on my part. I meant to play the Ice Wizard on one tile more to the left, but I played it so that way it would go down the right side, and it just didn't help out at all on defense. So I had to play an extra Baby Dragon for that Baby Dragon, which set me back more elixir than I would have liked. Then what he was able to do was just going with an Electro Giant, and then he just ended up kind of taking my tower. So I actually learned a lot from watching this game. A lot of my mistakes were just really stupid things that could have been easily fixed, but now I know not to make those mistakes. So yeah, watch your replays, guys. This next thing I'm gonna say is gonna be pretty controversial. All right, I'll be honest. The Clash Royale matchmaking algorithm is not rigged. Let me explain. There are 2 things that are taken into account when Clash Royale is matching you up against someone: your trophy count and also your results of past battles. I think your trophy count is self-explanatory. Clash Royale is going to match you up against someone who has a similar amount of trophies to you. But in terms of the results of past battles, what that means is that Clash Royale is going to match you up against someone based on whether you are on a winning streak or a losing streak. So let's say that you're on a 2-game winning streak. Clash Royale is going to try to match you up against someone who is also on a 2-game winning streak. And the same thing applies for losing streaks. If you're on like a 3-game losing streak, Clash Royale is also going to try to match you up against someone who is on a 3-game losing streak. So what this means is that your card levels and your tower levels are actually not taken into account during matchmaking. Hi everyone, this is SolarFury from the future here, and what I realized is that what I said is partially incorrect. So I said that your king tower level and your card levels aren't taken into account, but your king tower level is actually taken into account. So basically how it works in terms of king tower matchmaking is that you're gonna get matched up with someone who is +1 or -1 your king tower level. So let's say that you're a level 11 player, your matchmaking parameters for the king tower level is going to be level 10, 11, and 12. And then after a certain time frame, if Clash Royale doesn't find a match for you, then those parameters will gradually expand. So yeah, just thought I'd throw that in there. Back to the video. So if you ask me, I don't define that as rigged, but I define that as extremely flawed. I think it's important to make a distinction between those 2 words. Clash Royale is not rigged, it is flawed. And contrary to belief, the game does not match you up against opponents that have hard counters on purpose. It's just the bad luck of the draw. Because there are some times where your opponent has a hard counter, but there are other times where you have a hard counter to your opponent. So it's just the luck of the draw. If you get a hard counter matchup, I'm sorry, it happens sometimes. And also, if you do notice yourself on like a 4 or 5 game losing streak, just take a break, honestly. And so the last thing I want to share, I think, is the most important piece of advice I could ever give to any Clash Royale player ever. Clash Royale is just a game. Clash Royale is meant to be something that brings you joy. It's meant to be a game that you play for entertainment. If you feel yourself not being entertained and not enjoying yourself while playing Clash Royale, just take a break. It's not worth playing it anymore. I have been making Clash Royale videos since late 2018. I've been in this business for a while. And while making content, admittedly, I've had many periods of time where I've just completely thought about quitting Clash Royale and just like playing another game, because I would get so mad while playing Clash Royale that I would like throw my iPad or throw my phone. And I realized that playing Clash Royale isn't worth sacrificing my mental health. So what I decided to do is to really limit my Clash Royale playing pretty much to when I create content. I still like creating content on Clash Royale, but playing it outside of content, not really. And that's not me saying I don't like the game. I like the game, I do. It's just, I've found a nice balance in terms of playing Clash Royale in moderation to where I'm not grinding it like 3+ hours a day. And that has done wonders for my mental health. I feel like it has done wonders for my content as well, because my mood is better in videos. And yeah, remember, Clash Royale is just a game. It's not worth sacrificing your mental health. All right, I felt like I rambled a lot for that last point, but I hope you guys got the message I was trying to send. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. 5 things I've learned while playing Clash Royale. If you enjoyed, leave a like, as I said earlier. And if you're new, be sure to subscribe as well, as I said earlier. But anyway, gamers, this is SolarFury signing off. Peace out, guys. Have a nice day.